This is NBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock, who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place to tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Knicks.
Knicks family, what's poppin'? It's your boy. Ladies and gentlemen, we're on the last part of the season grades for the New York Knicks. Yeah, and today we're doing Tom Thibodeau, the coaching staff. Well, mainly Tom Thibodeau, not really the coaching staff. Mainly Tom Thibodeau. We're doing Tom Thibodeau in the front office. And I can see my man Blue Hefner already in the chat has something to say about how we grade Tom Thibodeau. And I know, Blue, I get it. I know you're not a fan of Tom Thibodeau, and that's okay. That's okay. But you got to admit, if there's a job well done, there's a job well done. I'm not saying the guy is perfect, and there's not things that he has to work on. But come on, you're saying if he gets anything more than a D, it's, come on, man. He said, I don't want to hear anything better than a D for Tom Thibodeau. I don't know. I think he did better than a D, man. You don't get to the playoffs and you don't get to the second round with somebody coaching on a D level, in my opinion. You know what I mean? So, I mean, he's got to be better than a D. But we're going to break it down. We're going to take a look at Tom Thibodeau and, what he did for the Knicks this season. We're also going to take a look at some of the most popular criticisms for Tom Thibodeau this season and discuss whether or not you agree with those criticisms. Right? And, go from there. So let me get the poll up in here, right? So we can get your grade for Tom Thibodeau. And I'm just going to say grade for Tibbs, right? And you put if you think he's got an A, a B, a C, or a D. All right, so let's go ahead and get that up in there. And then we're going to take a look at Tom Thibodeau and his, his accomplishments for the season. So let's go ahead and move on to Tom Thibodeau, ladies and gentlemen. And there's a lot to talk about when it comes to Tibbs. A lot. It's kind of a complex thing, man. No doubt about it. All right, when you look at some of the highlights for Tom Thibodeau, first of all, and we're going all the way back to training camp because I think you heard it from training camp on to the regular season. Tom Thibodeau helps the team to establish habits, good habits. And throughout the season, he talked frequently about establishing habits. And I think it's part of the reason why Tom Thibodeau has been able to have success with his basketball teams. Now, one can argue his success in the playoffs. You can argue, you can talk about what happened in Minnesota. I get all of that, but he's a good guy, and a lot of people talk about it. A lot of people say it. He's a good guy to start a foundation, to build a foundation, because he does really focus on habits. Establish your habits, right? He focuses on standards. He focuses on fundamentals. Now, you can talk about him being antiquated or, whatever it is. I get it. But he establishes habits, and I think that's important for any basketball team. Highly prepared. And this is according to players. You can see I have it right there on the screen. It says according to the players. He's highly prepared. Now, he's so prepared. Sometimes I wonder if he's too prepared. And if there's too many things for the players to focus on in order to be able to execute, you know. But I think Tom Thibodeau expects a high basketball Q and a high level of execution and preparation from his players. But he is highly prepared. He keeps the players focused. And you can hear it from the players themselves, right? Tom Thibodeau was always preaching the next game, the next game, the next game. And when I say the next game, I don't mean looking ahead. When I say preaching the next game, I mean we're not going to focus on what happened 5 games ago. We're not going to focus on the game that just passed. We're going to use that game to get better for the next game because we have a new challenge ahead of us every night. And I think he did a good job keeping the players focused towards the end of the season. The media were asking players all kinds of questions, right? They asked Jalen Brunson about his contract in Dallas and what Mark Cuban said and all kinds of things like that. And Brunson said, my focus is on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Right? My focus is on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Never did Tom Thibodeau allow his players to get too far ahead. It was always on the next game. What's in front of us? Even when they were on winning streaks, 8-game winning streak, or, they're winning 5 games in a row. Don't worry about that. We can't do nothing about those 5 games we just won. We just got to look at the next one. So I thought he did a good job keeping the players focused, even during some of the losing streaks when there would be people saying, oh, Tom Thibodeau's lost the team and all kinds of stuff. It proved to be false. That Tom Thibodeau had the ear of the team and was able to keep the players focused. Some of the things that he did, adjustments he made throughout the season. He shortened the rotation, right? The beginning of the season started off rocky for the Knicks. In November, they were below 500. Below 500 in November. So it started off really rocky. He figured, hey, you know what? I gotta cut the rotation because I guess he figured either he felt he was playing too many people or there were players that just couldn't get the job done. Right? So what did he do? He sat down Derrick Rose. He sat down Evan Fournier. He sat down Cam Reddish, even though Cam Reddish had a couple of games where he played well. Sat him down. Because for whatever reason, Cam Reddish, for all intents and purposes, I think Cam Reddish and Tom Thibodeau just weren't on the same page. But he probably missed defensive rotations that maybe we couldn't see, right? And other things. So Tom Thibodeau sat him down. And listen, I know people are going to mention Randall and other players that may have missed defensive rotations and things like that. I get it. I understand. But if you're a player of the caliber of Cam Reddish, you don't have the luxury to miss anything. You got to get the job done when you get out there on the floor, right? Because you haven't established yourself in the league, and your mishaps can't outweigh the positives, right? The positives or what you do, what you give to the team, always have to outweigh any mistakes that you're going to make out there on the floor. But anyway, Tom Thibodeau benched some guys that you didn't think he was going to bench. And I look at that as a kind of a big move for Tom Thibodeau because he's got the history of, he's known as a guy who likes to play veterans. So for him to bench Derrick Rose and to bench Evan Fournier, now Derrick Rose is one of Tom Thibodeau's most favorite players in the world. But he put him on the bench. because Derrick Rose wasn't getting the job done. And he felt like he needed the defense at that time of Deuce McBride. I think that marks a guy. Either he made a change in his philosophy and saying, you know what, I get it. Vets can get it done, but we need the spryness of a young man like Deuce. Or he's just the kind of guy that's like, whoever I need to play, I'm going to play to get the job done. But he benched Rose and he benched Fournier. Tom Thibodeau also stuck with a couple of guys out there that, you know, fans at points during the season were asking for these guys to be benched. IQ. Oh, I couldn't remember his name for a second. IQ. There was a point in the season where people thought IQ should be benched. Tom Thibodeau stuck with him. He rocked with him. IQ is one of his guys. There's no doubt about that. And IQ, he got his game together because in the beginning of the season, IQ was kind of, you know, he wasn't understanding where he was going to find his shot within the offense. He was doing it defensively, but it took him some time to adjust. And then he adjusted. Ended up averaging 15 points a game. You know, being a finalist for Sixth Man of the Year. A very, very good defender. You know, Tom Thibodeau stuck with IQ. Stuck with him. Kudos for that. He led the team to a 47-35 record, ladies and gentlemen. And if the Knicks didn't have the type of November that they had, the Knicks were below 500 in November. December 1st, after December 1st, the Knicks were one of the top 6 teams in the league after December 1st. 6 or 7, somewhere around there. But that November, I think they were like 10-13 or something like that up until that point. They were sub 500. But he led the team to a 47-35 record, of course, after he benched Rose and Fournier, shortened that lineup to just 9 players. That's when they began to play better, right? And you started to see the chemistry flow. And then, of course, the Knicks got hit with some injuries. Mitchell Robinson went down. Jericho Sims stepped in. Next man up mentality. RJ Barrett goes down. You know, whoever it is that stepped in at that time, IQ stepped in. Next man up mentality. Later on in the season, Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle go down. IQ, Obi Toppin, they step in. Next man up mentality. You know, that goes back to the players being focused, prepared, and using the habits that they established. And all of this led to the team having a 47-35 record. 2 of the last 3 seasons, the Knicks have been in the playoffs, ladies and gentlemen. Tom Thibodeau's led them there. And I'd argue that it would have been 3 seasons straight if there weren't some injuries. In the season, 21-22. Led the team to the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference. And then, of course, they get their first win in a decade. These aren't easy things to do, especially a team like the Knicks. You heard what I just said. Their first playoff series win in a decade, ladies and gentlemen. These aren't easy things to do. You've got to reestablish a culture. You know what I mean? And Tom Thibodeau did that. And I think the Knicks do have, and they're still building the culture, but I think the Knicks do have a culture growing. An idea about the type of players they want and how they want to play basketball. And it's why the Knicks have had, they advanced to the second round, won 2 games in the second round. How long has it been? It's been a decade since they have done that. Tom Thibodeau helped to establish that. Right? Helped to establish that. Now, as far as criticisms, a lot of criticisms for Tom Thibodeau, to be expected, right? To be expected. First of all, is offensive creativity, right? There's a lot of criticism about Tom Thibodeau and his ability to create an offense that is free-flowing, that utilizes the skill sets of all of his players, right? A lot of criticism about Tom Thibodeau's offense being, based on ISO, right? Isolation. Julius Randle, isolation. Jalen Brunson, isolation. R.J. Barrett, isolation. And, yeah, can't lie. The Knicks they're an ISO-heavy team, right? Tom Thibodeau, I guess you have to ask the question, though. Is it Tom Thibodeau or is it the players that he has? Is he looking at the skill sets of the players and say, hey, this is the best way for us to play basketball? It's hard to say which one that it is. But it's no doubt about it. The Knicks have an ISO-heavy offense. It's based on getting the ball, to either Julius Randle or Jalen Brunson. Let's get inside the paint. Let's kick it out and swing it. All right, that's what it's based on. That's the type of offense that he runs. Some screen and roll. When you don't have knockdown shooters, that screen and roll becomes a lot tougher. Right? Because if you don't respect the three-point shot, then guys are just going to pinch into the paint. It's going to close off anyone who's rolling to the basket, whether it be Mitchell Robinson, Julius Randle, Obi Toppin. It's going to cut off anybody rolling to the basket. So it's tough. You got to have knockdown shooters out there on the floor, especially in today's NBA. But no doubt about it, there's not a lot of offensive creativity to this basketball team. And I think there's some guys that can, you got Obi Toppin, Quentin Grimes, R.J. Barrett. These guys know how to cut to the basket, and they can cut to the basket. And, I agree that Tom Thibodeau can utilize his players better. He can utilize the talents, the skill sets of these players a little bit better. I would have liked to have seen, the star players that you have on this team, your primary players, Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson, R.J. Barrett. I don't feel as though they play together. They don't play off of one another. For the most part, they create one-on-one, right? They create one-on-one, and then they kick it out once the double team comes. I would like to see guys use each other a little bit more. I mean, we see some handoffs, but I don't know if the continuity is always there. Hopefully, next season, as this roster comes back, that starting five comes back, if it's fully intact next year, you see the chemistry grow. You see the chemistry build. I'd like to see Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle utilize pick and roll together. I think it can be really, really effective. Right? Julius Randle, when he's getting downhill, when he's getting downhill, it's hard to stop him going to the basket. Jalen Brunson has a monster mid-range game. So I think those two running a pick and roll could be advantageous for the New York Knicks. An antiquated defensive scheme. I agree with this 100%. I do think Tom Thibodeau's defensive scheme is kind of antiquated. Not much variety in his defensive scheme. You know what I mean? You only see trapping when it's necessary. I mean, they do some double teaming, but not necessarily trapping. Right? Like Miami does a lot of trapping. They do a lot of full court pressure, switching up different defenses. The Knicks don't do that much. And I feel like it allows teams to predict what we're going to do defensively. And it makes it easier for them to pick us apart. So I do think it's antiquated. And then, of course, everything is funneled to the middle, funneled to Mitchell Robinson so that he can defend the rim, right? They protect the paint and take the chance that teams are not going to knock down the three. All right? I mean, their entire scheme is based on protecting the paint. It's kind of antiquated because you don't have as effective post-up players that you did in the past. You still got guys that post up. Joel Embiid can post up. Jokic can post up. Julius Randle can post up. But there's way more three-point shooters, and people are way more prolific outside the arc. So on nights, and we've seen it all season long, on nights, it was dangerous. It was like playing with fire. You know what I mean? You protect that paint, and then we see some guys knock down threes. Sometimes we see some guys that, you don't even have on a scout report knocking down threes. So it is kind of antiquated. But in the playoffs, that defense really did come through. Not going to lie. I know they lost to Miami, right? But they beat the Cavs 4-1 using that same type of defense. And they actually held Miami to 30% shooting from the three-point line and like 42% shooting from the field. And over the first 3 games against Boston, Miami was obliterating those percentages. They obliterated those percentages against the Milwaukee Bucks. So, I mean, the defense worked in the playoffs. The offense didn't work in the playoffs. Not against Miami. The Knicks' offense was shut down versus Miami. And part of it is because it lacked creativity. Some things were exposed with the Knicks, lack of ball handling, obviously the lack of shooting. And if you want to say lack of ball movement, man movement. But while the defense is antiquated, it worked in the playoffs. If the Knicks had better offense, things could be different. Maybe they'd be playing right now. But I would like to see Tom Thibodeau utilize more zones, especially like if you use zones. I feel like if the Knicks used more zone play, you could have used Evan Fournier more because you can hide Fournier in the zone a little bit. So now you can have him out there on the floor. The Knicks needed shooting versus Miami. Maybe Evan Fournier, you played a little bit of zone. Maybe the Knicks could have utilized Evan Fournier. You look at the way the Miami Heat tried to take Jalen Brunson out the game, and it really caused a problem for the Knicks. Because even though Jalen Brunson was able to get his, and threw a monkey wrench in the Knicks, everything they want to do offensively. Because now you needed other people to handle the basketball. R.J. Barrett, Josh Hart, not really Julius Randle. His brain wasn't even in it. So other people now had to handle the basketball. And it just messed up what the Knicks do offensively. And it put so much extra work on Jalen Brunson. And to Jalen Brunson's credit, he handled it. Took it like a man. He took it to the chest. Still gave him 38 and 41 the last 2 games of the series. I think he averaged 28 points a game or something. I don't know, whatever it was. Right? So, I mean, they tried everything they could, from Gabe Vincent pressuring on full court, not allowing him to touch the basketball, to Game 6, you had 2 people pressuring Jalen Brunson full court, trying to keep the basketball out of his hands. And he still dropped 41. It's crazy. But the Knicks needed more creation from other people. Right from the beginning of Game 6, I seen Kevin Love and Jimmy Butler, both of those guys beyond Jalen Brunson, defend Jalen Brunson full court. And the Knicks got it into Julius Randle. And when Randle got the ball, he just kind of pranced up the floor. That was a point where it was like, oh, man, we might have a 3-on-2 or something. Or 4-on-3 if we move the ball up the floor. When you look at that type of defense, the Knicks didn't do any of that. The Knicks' defense was very predictable. Every once in a while, there'd be a half-court trap. He'd send 2 at Jimmy Butler. But it was a loose 2 guys coming at Jimmy Butler. They didn't, come straight out at him and trap him. It was like, you could see 2 guys coming with his hands up. And then you got to pass it over top. And then, of course, the Knicks are scrambling to get back in play. So I'd like to see, some just more creative defensive schemes from Tom Thibodeau next season. More zones, more trapping, throughout, different parts of the game. It doesn't have to be, only when it's necessary. The more you mix it up, the more teams have to think, figure out what it is that you're doing. I think Tom Thibodeau worries about giving it up too soon. Worries about, if I do it now, they're going to know what I'm doing later. But I think if you sprinkle it in throughout the game, you make the team have to think. And you're switching it up frequently, and, they don't know what's coming. I'd like to see more of that defensively. Another criticism for Tom Thibodeau is that he uses his players wrong. Case in point, Obi Toppin. Obi Toppin is athletic, the most athletic player on our basketball team. Right? The most athletic player on the basketball team. People argue that, well, he kind of just keeps him out there at the 3-point line. You know what I'm saying? I agree. I think Obi Toppin is great in transition. And earlier in the season, even last year, they were using Obi Toppin, letting him leak out. He's leaking out. You know what I mean? I think, Obi Toppin probably listening to people like me and fans and other pundits talk about his gameplay. Didn't leak out as much middle to late season. Obviously, his minutes are low, but didn't leak out as much middle to late season. Maybe so he can grab more rebounds. But you don't really see Obi Toppin flashing to the basket. There's some schemes. You see him go baseline every once in a while, and the oop go, oop get to him from baseline or screen and roll, or every once in a while. But there could definitely be more. Right? There could definitely be more. Kerry Cox said Obi simply isn't that dude. I dig what you're saying. He's not the guy that's going to create for you. Obi's not that guy, right? You're not going to give him the ball with the shot clock running down and say, create a shot, go get a bucket. You're not going to do that with Obi. I'm just talking about the utilization, how you utilize his skill set. Because that's one of the criticisms of Tom Thibodeau, that he doesn't utilize his player's skill set. Isaiah Hartenstein, another guy. Good passer, right? Good passer. The beginning of the season, Isaiah Hartenstein was at the elbow trying to get guys backdoor cuts to the basket. Mid to late season, all that was gone. It was gone. Right? People argue that Tom Thibodeau didn't utilize Isaiah Hartenstein as best as he could. I'll say this, in his defense, guys like Blue Hefner is going to get mad because I'm saying in his defense, but in his defense, players on the court have to do some things as well. Because you can, as a coach, trust me, I coach. Sometimes you put things in and players do not utilize what you put in. And you may even say, hey, listen, this is what I want you to do. They get out there and they still don't do it. It happens a lot, even on an NBA level. It happens. And sometimes it takes, another offseason and it takes a little while to understand their full skill set. And not only their skill set, because a player can have a certain skill set, but under certain situations, they may not be able to use that skill set. So it may take time to realize and understand, what their skill sets are, and then their mentality. What kind of heart do they have? Are they going to actually use that skill set when they're out there on the floor and they have the opportunity to do so? That takes time to learn your players. But I do agree, in somewhat, that Tom Thibodeau didn't use all of his players' skill set. You know what I mean? Josh, you said Tibbs ain't got that much time. I actually disagree. I think that Leon Rose and Tom Thibodeau, those guys are on the same page. They won 47 games this year. I don't think his job is in jeopardy at all. You know what I mean? That's part of building a culture. Everyone always talks about building a culture and wants to build a culture and those things, but they don't want to give the time for the culture to grow. It's like, oh, we got it. Sometimes it takes time sometimes. Like, he learned some stuff about his guys this year. He learned new things about his guys. Now, next year, he can implement some of those things. He can utilize some of those things, and hopefully he'll learn more things. Like, that's actually how a team grows. It's actually how it happens. Sometimes things click, and it happens right away. Sometimes it takes a little bit more time to grow than just one season. So if you have a player like Isaiah Hartenstein for just one season, it may not all happen in one season. I mean, it kind of makes sense that it doesn't all happen in one season. Stubborn with his rotations. Another criticism of Tom Thibodeau. You know what I mean? Listen, he shortened the rotation, which turned out to be a good thing. But then later on in the season, when guys started to go down, people were like, well, let's open that rotation up. Tom Thibodeau didn't really do that much. You know what I'm saying? There were times when he would play Deuce for 10 minutes, and you thought, well, he could have used him for 20 minutes. I think it goes into trust. You know what I'm saying? Tom Thibodeau is, just from my experience watching him, he's a guy that bases everything on trust. If he trusts you, he's going to put you on the floor. If he doesn't trust you, forget about it. Right? If you're not in Tom Thibodeau's circle of trust, you're not going to be on the floor at all. Maybe a little bit, but probably not at all. You know what I'm saying? If you're not in Tom Thibodeau's circle of trust. But he was definitely stubborn with his rotations. Right? You know what I mean? You seen Evan Fournier, Derrick Rose didn't get a look in the playoffs. And while people were like, hey, the Knicks could use their offense, no, this is my rotation and this is what I'm sticking with. The next guy up was Deuce. And in the playoffs, Deuce, even though he was the next guy up, if somebody was down, Emmanuel quickly went down, he barely used Deuce. He is stubborn with his rotations. There's no doubt about that. Some people may look at it as a good thing. Some people may look at it as a bad thing, but he's definitely stubborn with his rotations, and you've got to work to get into Tom Thibodeau's rotation and then stay there. A lot of complaints and criticisms about players' minutes. Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, RJ Barrett. I mean, these guys sometimes was logging. I mean, Jalen Brunson logged a game of 48 minutes in the playoffs. And I can guarantee you he'll do it again if he feels like he needs to. I'm not as big on it as other people are. You know what I'm saying? About the minutes thing. I believe if you have players, man, you play them. And you got to play your best players. And if you don't feel like you have the bench, what else are you going to do? What else are you going to do? Especially when you're in the playoffs. You know? And then I can see, though, where sometimes you just have to you got to try to put some trust in players, put them out there on the floor and try to trust them. And hopefully things come through. But he's a guy that's been around for a while. He's seen a lot of players come and go. He's coached hundreds and hundreds of players. And I think he probably has a good idea of what he wants out there on the floor. And if you're not giving it to him, he's not going to play you. And he's going to play the guys that he feels gives it to him. You know what I mean? So, yeah, he plays his players. He plays his guys. He plays the guys that he trusts. He plays the guys that he feels can get it done. You know what I mean? What are you going to do? You know, that's what coaches do. And if I'm a coach, which I am, I'm going to go out on my own sword. And if that means that, you know, I feel like I've got to play my guys, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to go out on your sword. I'm not going to get fired because I listen to you. Now, obviously, you got a coaching staff. I'm talking about people outside of the coaching staff. Right? I'm not going to lose my job because I listen to somebody tell me, hey, you know, play this guy more minutes because, you know, he's got a future. I'm going to go out on my own sword. And, you know, Tom Thibodeau, that's who he is and what he does. You know, and he is stubborn in some ways. You know, I get it. I get it. I'm not saying I agree with everything. You know what I mean? I think I would have opened up the rotation a little bit. You know what I'm saying? It's how you give some guys confidence, or not give some guys confidence, but help them to establish some confidence. You know what I mean? Josh, what are you talking about? Like, Josh, are you just saying stuff so you can see yourself in the chat tweeting? So we shouldn't critique it? Like, of course people can. That's why I have criticisms up here. I just said I don't always agree with it. Anyway, don't throw me off. Lack of accountability. Another criticism of Tom Thibodeau. That he doesn't hold everybody accountable the same way. Julius Randle is the case in point. A lot of people think that he doesn't, if Julius Randle's having a bad game, doesn't sit him. If Julius Randle has an outburst, doesn't say anything to him. At least this is the perception. Obviously, we don't know what's said in the locker room or anything like that. I'll say this, you know, Julius Randle is not treated like any other player. Neither is Jalen Brunson or RJ Barrett. They're not going to be. You know, you're always going to have, there's going to be certain players that, whether or not you think it's real or should be this way, I don't care what basketball team you have. It's going to be players that can get away with more than others. That's the way of the world. Does Tom Thibodeau have conversations with Julius Randle? I don't know. I have no idea. Does Tom Thibodeau tell him, hey, I need you to do this, that, and the third, or I'm going to sit you down? Probably not. He probably doesn't. Does Tom Thibodeau feel that Julius Randle is giving him what he needs. He might feel that Julius Randle is giving him what he needs. I don't know. I feel like Tom Thibodeau is one of those coaches that if he has your back, he has your back. And he's going to rock with you. And he's definitely not going to say anything in public. He's been around for a long time. He gets it. He's not going to do that. He's not going to say anything in public. And he's probably not going to chastise you if you're a player of a certain stature on that particular basketball team. He's probably not going to chastise you on the bench in public either. I can guarantee you, for the time that you see Jalen Brunson here, you're not going to see Tom Thibodeau chew him out like that. Maybe in the locker room, maybe, in practice, whatever. You're not going to see him chew him out like that in front of the crowd on TV. I can almost guarantee that. First of all, Jalen Brunson, I don't think you even have to worry about it. Jalen Brunson is just going to do the right thing. He's going to do the right thing. But that's the kind of coach that I feel that Tom Thibodeau is. He's got his guys that he trusts, and he's going to approach each one of them a little bit different. Right? Each one of them, he's going to approach different. And you kind of have to do that. I tell people all the time, I treat all my players the same way, and that's different. There's players that I can yell at. There's players, if I yell at them, they're going to pout. There's players that'll ask me, Coach, I need you to yell at me a little bit more. And you got to talk to your players and figure out what do they need. So is the accountability the same across the board? Hell no, it's not. And I can guarantee you on every single basketball team in the NBA, the accountability is not the same across the board. It's not. It's not the same across the board. Certain players will get snatched out the game quickly. Certain players are going to get a little bit more rope. I mean, that's how it is across the league. So, if you think that's a lack of accountability, I get it. I understand where you're coming from. I just don't think all players are treated the same. That's all. So when you look at all of this, man, I mean, these are all valid criticisms of Tom Thibodeau. All valid criticisms. Every single one of them are valid. I don't think it takes away from the job that he did this season. I think he did a good job. And I think he's still a coach that's learning. He's always going to fall back into his ways. He's going to fall back and do the things that he does. And he's going to learn, and he's going to grow. And I know a lot of people sit and say, well, he hasn't won a championship. Can he get a team to a championship? I don't think his style of play can get a team there. I don't think his coaching style can get a team there. His coaching style won't get a team there until it does. I'll say that. It won't get a team there until it does get a team there. You know what I mean? I feel that Tom Thibodeau has been very good for the New York Knicks over the past few years. He literally, in his first season, took a team that was terrible and got them into the playoffs. And they've been a playoff team, playoff caliber team ever since then. So I think he's been very good for the Knicks. I think that Tom Thibodeau is going to have to, I think he's got to, hopefully he does look at himself in the mirror, look at his coaching job and go back. He says he looks at tape, go back and look at all the tape from the season and say, what could I have done better? Because, every coach every year is going to make mistakes. You know what I mean? It's going to make mistakes. Going to make mistakes. So he's got to go back, look at himself, figure out what could I have done better? How could I have made this adjustment or that adjustment? Or how could I have utilized Obi? Or how could I have utilized Hartenstein or Randall? Or what could I have done? And then try to make those adjustments going into the next season. And then, of course, spoke to, the front office, who we're going to talk about soon, and figure out what other players do I need out here on the floor. You know what I'm saying? Blue Hefner said, please, he rode the coattails of a great season by Randall 2 years ago and rode the coattails of Brunson this year. If that's the case, every single coach in the league is riding the coattails of their great players. I mean, that's why you have players. What the hell are you talking about? That's why you have players, bro. It's up to the coach. The coach helps those players to have great seasons and become like he's had until he had Tom Thibodeau as a coach. It doesn't mean that it was all Tom Thibodeau. But I guarantee you Tom Thibodeau is part of the reason that Julius Randle has made 2 All-NBA seasons. Come on. Every coach in the league is a good coach because of their players. That's why you have players. I mean, you're not going out. You're not a front office and say, our coach is so good that we don't have to get good players. We can go get some bums and he's going to turn them good. No. It's not how it works, bro. It's not how it works. You got to have good players, too. Then the coach has to utilize those players. So I think that was just, come on, Blue. Come on, Blue. You're better than that. Better than that, man. You're better than that. You know what I mean? Better than that. So I think Tom Thibodeau, I'm giving Tom Thibodeau the grade of a B for this season. And I'm looking in the chat, 7% saying A, 70% say B, 20% say a C, 2% say a D. I'm giving him a B. I feel like during the season, he did a lot of good things. But me, I would really like to see some variety defensively. I'd like to see some variety offensively. We're a predictable team. I wouldn't mind seeing Tom Thibodeau, utilize, especially in situations when guys are out, open up the bench a little bit. Even if it's for a couple minutes, open up the bench a little bit. But I'm not mad at Tom Thibodeau at all. Thought he got out-coached in the Miami series. You know what I'm saying? Spoelstra was killing it. He was definitely killing it. Thought he got out-coached. Spoelstra just, threw everything that they had at the Knicks. And that my audio's cutting in and out. Sorry about that. Not exactly sure why. I apologize that my audio is cutting in. I can't hear myself. I can hear myself a little bit, but I can't hear what you guys are hearing. And what I hear, my audio isn't cutting out from what I hear, but obviously it is. Hopefully it clears up and stays good. So sorry about that. But I'm giving Tom Thibodeau a B. Let me go ahead and get that up on the on screen. Grade of a B for Tom Thibodeau. Eli said he think it's YouTube. Someone else said it sounded good. Good now. Okay, good. So maybe it was YouTube or something, but I'm glad it's good now. So I'm giving Tom Thibodeau the grade of a B. Grade of a B. I think that Tom Thibodeau, I think he's the kind of coach that's always looking to learn. And I think that he'll take his own advice and go back to the drawing board, look at what he did for the season, look at the team, look at who he's got coming in, and restart habits for next season. And also, looking at some adjustments that he can make. So Tom Thibodeau gets a B from me. And obviously he gets a B from the chat because that's what the chat has up there. So now, let's talk about the front office, because in order for Tom Thibodeau to do his job, look at the tapes, East Blue Drew. Look at the tapes. That's what Tom Thibodeau does, right? Look at the tapes 3, 4, 5 times. Listen, Tom Thibodeau's a workhorse. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure every day during the offseason, he's looking at, if he's not out scouting, he's looking at tape, trying to figure out how to get better. But let's take a look at the front office, because every coach needs a front office to get him or her the tools to do their job. So let's take a look at the front office, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to look at their offseason moves for 2022, okay? And then, the trade deadline, we're going to break the whole thing down, because the Knicks had an eventful offseason in 2022. Very eventful. So, let's start off with the draft. And if you remember at the draft, the Knicks traded the number 11 pick and Kemba Walker, and they received future picks and $18 million in cap space. Right? And, we were at the draft party, and everyone kind of got deflated when the Knicks started making all these moves. Everyone got deflated. But let's take a look. Let's go back and look at these moves, because there's a lot that happened here. All right? A lot that happened. And I think I need to rewind this. Okay, let's start here. All right, so the Knicks had the 11th pick. Remember that. They had the 11th pick. Okay? And they traded the 11th pick to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Oh, wait a minute. Let me get that back for you. Give me just 1 second here. All right, because it's automatically switching the slides, and I don't want it to automatically switch the slides. Okay, there we go. So the Knicks trade the number 11 draft pick to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Knicks received a 2023 first-round draft pick from Detroit. All right, protected 1 through 18 until 2024. All right, then after that, I think it turns into a second-round pick or something like that. Well, actually, it's protected 1 through 13 in 2025. It's protected 1 through 11 in 2026. And protected 1 through 9 in 2027. And then I guess it turns into second-round pick. I mean, for the most part, unless Detroit ends up being really, really good one of these years, that pick is probably going to turn into a second-round pick. But, hey, listen, Detroit's got some young guys there. Maybe the Knicks get one of these picks, like 2026 or something like that, or 2027. Maybe they get one of those picks. They also received a 2023 first-round pick from the Washington Wizards, protected 1 through 14 in 2023, protected 1 through 12 in 2024, protected 1 through 10 in 2025, and protected 1 through 8 in 2026. We'll see if that one ever comes through. And then they received a 2023 first-round draft pick through Denver, protected 1 through 14 until 2025. All right, so the Knicks traded the 11th pick and they received a bevy of first-round picks that were highly, highly protected. All right. And then the Knicks traded the 2023 first-round pick from Denver, a 2023 second-round pick from their own pick, 2023 second-round pick from Utah, 2023 second-round pick from Dallas or Miami, whichever one is more favorable, was more favorable, and then the 2024 second-round pick from, the Knicks, their own pick. Okay, so they traded. The Hornets received all those picks, and the Knicks got the number 13 pick. That was Jalen Duren. Okay. So that was a completely separate trade. Completely separate trade. And then the Knicks decided to trade Jalen Duren to the Pistons with Kemba Walker. And they received back a 2025 first-round pick, protected 1 through 4 from the Milwaukee Bucks. All right, so a lot of things happening. A lot of things happening there. All right, and then finally, when you sum it all up, the Knicks received on draft night, they traded the number 11 pick and Kemba Walker, and they received a 2023 first-round pick from Detroit, protected 1 through 18 until 2024, 1 through 13 in 2025, protected 1 through 11 in 2026, 1 through 9 in 2027. They received a 2023 first-round pick from the Washington Wizards, protected 1 through 14 in 23, protected 1 through 12 in 24, protected 1 through 10 in 25, protected 1 through 8 in 26. They received a first-round pick, a 2025 first-round pick, through Milwaukee, protected 1 through 4, and $18 million in cap space. That's what the Knicks got out of the draft from that 11th pick, ladies and gentlemen. And, of course, they used that cap space to sign Jalen Brunson. We're going to get to that. They traded Burks and Nerlens Noel for $19 million in cap space. They drafted Trevor Keels, and I spelled Trevor Keels' name wrong. I forgot the other E, but they drafted Trevor Keels, number 42. All right, I probably should have had that before the trade of Burks and Noel, but you get it. It happened at the draft that they drafted Trevor Keels, and then after the draft, they traded Burks and Noel. They signed Jalen Brunson, Isaiah Hartenstein, and Svi McCulloch. All right, now Jalen Brunson turned out to be the best signing of the offseason and maybe the best signing that the Knicks have ever made, to be honest with you. And I'm not just talking about, I'm not talking about star power here. I'm talking about value. Right? And what they signed Jalen Brunson for and what he's shown to be. They extended R.J. Barrett 4 years, $120 million contract. They extended Mitchell Robinson 4 years, $60 million contract. And then, of course, they were negotiating with the Utah Jazz to trade for Donovan Mitchell. Ultimately, they passed on the trade because they refused to give up too many unprotected first-round picks. Okay? And of course, that was, it was a crazy summer for the Knicks. And everything that they did, and I was definitely disappointed that they didn't get Donovan Mitchell at the time. Because I felt like everything that they did was so that they could get Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell. Everything that they did. All of the moves that they made during the draft, that's what it was leading to, in my opinion. And it didn't happen. So I was definitely disappointed because I wanted it to happen. But Kevin Bergen, I agree with you. Danny Ainge wasn't trying to trade Donovan Mitchell to the Knicks. Wasn't trying to make that move at all. I'm not gonna lie. I got on. I was like, "Yo, the Knicks got it. They're supposed to get that done. They're supposed to do it." But it turned out to be okay. Turned out to be good, and maybe they just knew maybe they knew what they had in Jalen Brunson, and we didn't. Maybe they knew. So now, the Knicks leave. Since they don't make the move for Donovan Mitchell. They kept their draft picks. Obviously, they kept their depth, because if they would have traded for Donovan Mitchell, R.J. Barrett probably would have been gone. Obi Toppin, Emmanuel Quickly, these guys would have been gone. Now, I'm sure the Knicks would have found some guys to help make up for the lack of depth. Pretty sure they would have found some people that could help make it up. Would Josh Hart still have been here? I think Josh Hart still would have been here. I think the Knicks would have found a way to still get Josh Hart to the Knicks. Or the front office would have found a way to still get Josh Hart to the Knicks. But the Knicks kept their picks. They kept the depth. They ended up in the 5th seed and eliminating the Cleveland Cavaliers. So it worked out for the Knicks. Of course, the question is, will the Knicks make the move the next time a star becomes available? Right? Will they make the move? That's always going to be the question. When you look at this front office, they've notoriously been conservative, in my opinion. They've been conservative. So will they make the move if somebody is available? Now, the one thing I trust in this front office is that they're going to go out and try to they're not going to take a lot of chances, right? They're not going to, they're not trying to get wild cards. They want to know what they have. And I think this is part of the benefit of having a guy like Leon Rose, an agent. Because as an agent, when you're going out and trying to recruit guys to be in your roster of guys you want to represent, you're doing all kind of background checks with these guys. You're trying to figure out who they are, right? And so you're learning some things about them. You dig what I'm saying? And I think that's the benefit of having guys like Leon Rose, agents be in your front office. Because you have all of this background knowledge on players. Now, once you've been in the office, in the front office for a while, that, you no longer have that background knowledge. You're still going to be doing research on guys, though. So you still got some of it. But I think, they've done a good job of bringing in high character guys. High character guys to this organization. And they'll continue to do so. So when they're looking to make a move for a star, they're going to try to make a move. They're going to make a move on a guy that's high character. I, for one, wouldn't mind them taking a chance or two on a guy. Right? Like, for example, my guy over there in Houston, when he was available with Cleveland for a second-round pick, I wanted the Knicks to take a chance on him. They decided, I thought the Knicks had enough, what do you want to call it, leadership within the organization to take a chance. And I think the Knicks do have enough leadership within this organization to take some chance on some guys, but I just don't think this front office is about that. I don't think they're going to do that. They're going to be as safe as possible. They're not going to take many chances. They're not going to take many chances at all. At the trade deadline, ladies and gentlemen, the Knicks traded Cam Reddish and a 2023, this year's draft pick, to the Portland Trail Blazers for Josh Hart and the draft rights to Bojan Dublovic, hopefully I said that correctly, and Daniel Diaz. All right. Josh Hart turned out to be a really good player for the Knicks this season. For the time that he's been here, turned out to be a really good player. Really a glue guy, adding, some toughness, the hustle, transition baskets. Added a lot of things to the Knicks. His first time making the playoffs. He struggled a little bit in the second round of the playoffs. You know what I mean? But he was a net positive addition to the New York Knicks. So that was a good move. Of course, the question is, will the Knicks, will he opt out of his contract? Will he, opt into the contract? Will the Knicks waive him? It's a weird contract with Josh Hart. We talked about it last night, right? He's got to decide whether or not he's going to opt in or opt out. And then once he makes that decision, then the Knicks have until June 25th to waive him. And if they don't waive him, then the contract becomes fully guaranteed. Okay, so, we'll see what happens there as far as Josh Hart. And I think that he's going to be with the Knicks. Either way it goes, whether he opts out or whatever, I think he's going to be with the Knicks. And I think it was a good move. I like what he brought to the team. I think it was a good move for the Knicks. So overall, man, when you look at, and let me put this in the chat so that you guys can tell me what you think about the front office and the job that they did this season. I like what they did. Now, I wasn't, at the draft, I was a little like, all right, what's going on? A lot of things were happening. I wanted them to get Donovan Mitchell. Obviously, they didn't. But when as time went on after the draft, you figured out that they were trying to clear cap space, so they cleared cap space, right? They traded Burks and Noel, cleared more cap space. I mean, the draft and early in the off season, they cleared $37 million. So that they could sign Jalen Brunson and Hartenstein and do some other things. Right? So they cleared that cap space for those reasons. They added draft picks. Some of those draft picks may turn out to be nothing for the Knicks. Like heavily protected draft picks may turn out to be nothing, as we see. That's, I'm hoping that some of those draft picks fall through. Not exactly sure with the way that they're protected. You need the Pistons to become a good team. You need the Wizards to become a good team. The Wizards, I don't know what's going on with them. They're stuck in purgatory. So I don't know, who knows? And the Pistons, they got a lot of young guys, but it's going to be some years before they start to play. Although those protections go all the way to 2027 with the Detroit Pistons. So maybe something comes to fruition with the New York Knicks and the Pistons picks in 2027. I think overall, with the front office, them not getting Donovan Mitchell kind of hurt me a little bit. I really wanted them to be a Knick. It turned out okay. And everything is going to be based on how it turns out. Obviously, Jalen Brunson was an A+ move. I think Josh Hart was probably a B+ move. I think I gave the front office a B as well. And some people might say, well, it's kind of incomplete because we don't know what they're going to do. Are these draft picks going to amount to anything? Do they use these draft picks in other trades? Do they use these draft picks to acquire a super duper star or something like that? And that's possible. So if those type of things happen, then of course you look back at it a little bit different. But for what we have and the facts that we have right now, I believe that a B is fair for the front office. And I'm looking at the chat, 24% saying A, 33% say a B, 33% say a C, 10% say a D. I don't know about the D. But me, I'm giving them a B. I think they deserve a B. Of course, like I just said, now here's the thing. If they end up not signing Josh Hart, right? Now you gave up a 2023 draft pick and you don't sign Josh Hart, well, then that would take this grade down to, that would take it down significantly. They end up not signing Josh Hart. So that's an important move that I think, that's an important move. You know what I mean? The Knicks, I think they've got it. They got to sign Josh Hart. Now, this offseason, there's a lot of things that the Knicks got some things to do for this offseason to help make this team better. And I'm pretty sure the front office is, pretty sure they're on their job. Pretty sure they're on their job. They got some work to do. I think that they need to be in their office, well, at least, not right now because, not right now. But they need to be working hard. Every day, they need to be on the horn. You know what I'm saying? As teams are getting eliminated from the playoffs, you're hearing about Philadelphia. You're hearing about things going on in L.A. All over the place. You're hearing about things. Coaches getting fired. All of this kind of stuff. You got to have your ear to the ground. Because I'm going to tell you one area, and maybe I should have put this on there. I was very disappointed that the Knicks did not inquire about Rui Hachimura. And you guys have heard me talk about this plenty of times. I was really disappointed about that. I like Rui. I thought that he could have added to this, to the bench. And be a guy, people always talk about, moving Julius Randle. And that's something that could happen one of these days. There's no doubt about it. And he's a guy that I felt in a year, year or two or whatever, if you move Julius Randle, he could be a guy that can possibly start at that power forward spot. And I know people are going to say, well, what about Obi? Obi's more exciting than Rui. I feel like Rui is more versatile than Obi. Better defender than Obi. Has a higher basketball IQ than Obi. So I was disappointed that they didn't go out and try to get, and maybe they didn't know. It's hard for me to believe that they didn't know that he was, available. You know what I'm saying? He's a guy that I think can play the 3 or the 4, to be honest with you. But the Lakers got him for a song and a dance. Seriously. A song and a dance. 3 second-round draft picks and a point guard that they wasn't really using. I would have loved for the Knicks to get Rui, but Rui's a free agent, a restricted free agent. I don't know if they have any thoughts or ideas about trying to make a play for him. I don't know if they have any money to do so. It's going to be interesting to see how the Knicks maneuver or use, find ways to free up money for this summer. if they can. I mean, obviously, Evan Fournier, if they can find some place to move Evan Fournier, they might have to attach one of those highly protected draft picks to it, or second-round picks. They got a bunch of second-round picks, too. If they can find a way to move Evan Fournier to free up some cap, they can be players this summer. If they can't find a way to free up cap space, then the only way they're going to acquire a very high-level player is through trade. It's the only way it can happen. Only way. There might be some guys out there that you can trade for, that the Knicks can trade for by coupling Derrick Rose's contract, which is expiring this year. So if you're going to make that move with Derrick Rose, you've got to make it's going to be best in their best interest. You're going to get the most value if you make that move at the trade deadline. If you don't make a move with Derrick Rose at the trade deadline, then you got to waive him or not pick up his option. You don't have to. You could still pick up his option and then hope that you can trade him by the trade deadline. But you may not be able to. Hope that you're going to trade him for a star player, but you may not be able to. Right? Somebody may not be available. So it's going to make more sense, I think, especially with the new regulations with the CBA and all of that, that if you don't trade Derrick Rose at the trade during the draft, then you don't pick up his option. All right, that's going to free, it's not going to free up that much money, but it's going to allow you to use your exceptions, $12 million or whatever in exceptions to sign players. Now, if you can put Derrick Rose and Evan Fournier's salaries together, that's $34 million. You may be able to pull in a high-quality, high-level player, attaching draft picks, of course, but you may be able to do so if you can put those two contracts together. And how does that help a team? Well, it helps a team because Derrick Rose's money they'd be able to take that off the books. So if they have a player that's making $30 million and they're moving that player's disgruntled and they're moving that player and their contract expires either next season or beyond, well, they take Evan Fournier, they take Derrick Rose, they get $15 million knocked off their books, plus draft picks, and then you only owe Evan Fournier $19 million. Right? So that's a possibility. I think it's a definite possibility. Like I was telling the Queen the other night, watch Chicago, man. I don't know what Chicago's going to do, but it's hard for me to see them locking into that roster going forward. It's hard for me to see that. And if I was Chicago, I think that I would maybe move Zach LaVine to Portland, try to get that third pick, not re-sign Vucevic, trade DeMar DeRozan, start rocking from there. Because I just don't think that roster, without Lonzo Ball, I don't know where that roster's going. Right? They weren't that good this year. I'm not seeing them getting any better for next year. They don't have a lot of, they got a large contract with Zach LaVine. Portland is looking to go all in to put some stuff around Dame Lillard. They're looking to trade that third pick. If I was Portland, I would do that. And if that happens, well, maybe the Knicks are in the running. I'm up in the air about DeMar DeRozan and this team. I'm up in the air about it. But I could see the Knicks moving Evan Fournier, Derrick Rose, maybe some draft picks for DeMar DeRozan that helps Chicago free up a little bit of money if Chicago is breaking it down. I could see that happen. you know, with them keeping their current roster. The problem is you have no shooting, no three-point shooting in that lineup if you do that. So I don't know. I'm up in the air. Something I want to think about a little bit more. You know what I mean? Something I want to think about a little bit more. But I could see it happening. And, you know, who knows? He could be there. He could be the Knicks' Vucevic, but the Knicks would have to free up money to sign Vucevic unless it's some kind of a sign and trade with the Knicks in Chicago. So that could possibly happen too. And if Vucevic comes, that means Mitchell Robinson's gone. Probably. But I would pay attention to Chicago, man, and what they decide to do this summer. Because if they decide to tear it down, and I think there could be a good chance that they decide to tear it down. If they decide to tear it down, you know, the Knicks may be looking to, you know, dip in there and bring back some higher level players to the New York Knicks, man. But anyway, Leon Rose and the front office staff, they get a B. I think they, you know, they do a good job managing the cap. I think they do a good job. I think they do a good job of making little small moves that we don't see. You know, understanding the cap, understanding the draft scenario, understanding what other teams have and how they might be using their picks, using their cap, those type of things. I think they do a good job of, you know, making little small sneaky moves that end up helping you in the long run. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's my time, man. I thank you. I appreciate you all for being here tonight. Front office staff, Tom Thibodeau, both get a B. Look forward to, I'm going to do an off-season guide, you know, that kind of, you know, that breaks down our salary cap, our draft, picks, players who are free agents, what contracts look like, the CBA. I'm going to do a nice little guide for us to follow. So be on the lookout for that. And then, of course, we got Keep 'em or Dump 'em coming. I got some highlight tapes coming. I got a bunch of things getting ready to come. Keep 'em or Dump 'em, man. We're going to start that next week, Kevin. I'm not forgetting about it. We're going to start that Keep 'em or Dump 'em next week. And I know it's going to be, you know, it's going to be hot. It's going to be a hot one. But we're going to start it next week. A lot of things coming. It's going to be a fun off season, man. I got some ideas for trades. I got some ideas, some free agents that I think the Knicks should go get, and all of that. Anyway, I'm up out of here. I appreciate you guys' time. Be easy, and I don't know if I see you tomorrow, but probably over the weekend, man. I'm out of here. Peace.
This is NBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim pass the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock, who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place you tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Knicks.